So
But
haven't
it's
done that much.
so important to have a really, really good scouting staff. Like I don't know what happens behind closed doors, but I feel like that's not talked about enough. To have individuals who can really recognize fruit, bring in talent, but as important for that coach that gets them, let's say at the American League, to actually develop those players. Because you see so much of that, right? You see the first round draft picks, the second, third, fourth round draft picks that never materialize into anything. And I always wonder, like, why is that? Like, why is a six round draft pick like a Jamie Benn who's still playing, captain of the Stars? Like, how is he so able to be so good and develop, but the guys in the top four rounds, a lot of them just don't, right? So that's always that coaching. That's coaching, right? Fast
Yeah. You're
players have,
also you're drafting 17-year-old kids.
yeah.
It's very, they can still play midget. So it is a little bit of a crapshoot. But the Calgary last 2 years have two first rounders each draft. So you know, but they got this kid, this Bashaw kid, Medicine Hat, but he got this tear in his ankle and he missed most of the season, just played the playoffs. I thought he was going to make the team last year as an 18-year-old in the tryouts. And, so they got, they're pretty good. But yeah, drafting is so important because, you know, and you have to develop them. And they really, they just promoted their minor league coach to the big team, and somebody else has taken over the minor league team.
It just seems like compared to years back, there's a rush for that 19-year-old to play right away in the NHL, as opposed to giving them the opportunity to do a little bit. I don't know if some of that is just because you got to pay these guys some money. Is it because they won't sign if they think that they got to go to the American League for a couple of years? I always curious about that, because it seems like the teams in the past that were really good had really good developmental systems, and the players, it was rare that you were getting 18, 19-year-old jumping onto the big team.
Well, Detroit used to be the one that would develop the players. They came in and they play good. Edmonton would get these first round guys like Taylor Hall and all this and expect them to lead them to the Stanley Cup when they're 18 years old.
That's
They
what I mean.
burn out and then they get rid of them.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's hard, right? You're doing a disservice to that player. Yet, do you have to do that because they won't sign unless you're telling them that's what they're going to be doing?
well, Calgary 2 years ago, there's a big exodus of the Swedes and some of the American players. They all wanted out. So what they ended up is getting draft picks for those guys. Guys like Hannafin and the goalie for New Jersey, what's his name, Markstrom,
Yeah,
and yeah, so they all wanted out of town. So they end up with a lot of draft picks, and I think they've done a pretty good job.
yeah, and I mean, to me, that's great, because I think that's where you get it. You can't just keep trying to fix things with a trade. Because I
I
worry.
wanted to watch last week. They had their rookie camp exactly the same time as our hockey camp, so I didn't get to any of them. But it's I always enjoy watching that. It was just a pure development. They didn't even scrimmage, so just doing.
Yeah, so it's I don't know. It's different than it used to be, which doesn't make it worse or better. It's just different, right? I mean, that's kind
I'll
of
give
like.
you an example from our university team. I We got a guy that led Canada major junior, 81 goals, 81 assists, and he wasn't huge and he wasn't a great skater. Well, nowadays they would have them working with a skating coach all summer because they did this with Zari, Calgary, and all, but they didn't. He never even went to a camp. He scored 81 goals, and the year before he got 135 points. The entire league, he was a top scorer in major junior in Canada, and he ended up playing university hockey. So, now they would take him and really work on his skating now. Because I mean, I loved watching him in practice. I bet you he scored 85% of his shots.
Wow.
He didn't just shoot to shoot, he shot to score, and he could fire the puck about an inch under the crossbar. But he never even went to NHL camp.
Huh.
So,
Oh, well, what's the reason?
pardon?
Why?
They didn't, he's 5'9", and he wasn't a great skater.
Right.
But all his teammates who scored 20 goals are playing in the NHL. How much it must have driven him crazy?
No, I'm
Because
just
he was a
saying, it
1
goes
second
back
player.
goes
He
back
saw
to-
the ice. He got 81 assists too.
I'm
he
not
saw the
arguing that
ice.
he should or shouldn't.
Oh,
But to Peter's point here, how does your scouting staff come to a unified conclusion on a player like that?
Yeah, how do you not bring that kid to camp? Just bring him to camp. Like worst case
I
scenario,
know.
right? They
I
show
would
that.
talk to this NHL pro scout that's always around. And I'd say, Archie, why wouldn't you have him shoot from the dot like Lanny used to? He's a right-handed shot, eh? It's unstoppable. And half the time he'd be laying on his stomach after he shot because no matter how bad the pass was, he'd get his body adjusted, but he'd still shoot rockets. And he was a 1 second player. Like he'd get the puck, he knew where everybody was, and he'd get the puck to them. So he was quick of mind. But yeah, he never even got to a camp. I don't even know if he got drafted. I should look it up.
That's crazy that you wouldn't like. What do you lose by bringing that kid to camp? Like somebody's
Well,
embarrassed if he falls on his face, so to speak. They're embarrassed.
sometimes the scouts are arrogant though,
Yeah,
because he'd say this, and then the same guy said to me, "Gaudreau's out there, right?" And this was when he was just got drafted, and he's flying around the ice. He says, he'll never play. He's only got one move. I said, "Are you watching the same guy I am?" That's He just thought he was too small to play. Eh?
yeah. Well, you always. I don't know if it's still the same, but it was always. I find 10 reasons why the small guy can't play, and I always say the big guy has potential.
Right. He has to prove he can't play, where the small guy has to prove he can.
Yep.
I don't
Guys,
know how
Yeah.
many draft picks Calgary in the years gone by wasted on 6'4" guys with hands of stone.
Yeah.
guys, my point is, how many of you have actually scouted? Like not coached, just traveled. Because I did it for 6 years at every single level you could imagine. And holding national camps every year at the senior and U18 level, we had 12 scouts come in and we talked about what we saw. And we had 7 criteria. And the first one, to my mistake, we focused on skating, and I thought if you can't skate, you can't play. That's sort of the rule back in the day. And we had to, the first ice time was evaluating skating. And it's not just forward acceleration, it's strength on skate, it's speed with the puck, it's changing a direction. There's so many aspects to it. But the scouts had to talk about those things, and we had to agree on a scale of 1 to 5 to 2/10 before we moved on.
Hmm.
So by the time you go through those traits and you spend that much time with your 12 scouts, you collate all of the trait scores. The coaches aren't really involved in the trait evaluation, but we bring them into a meeting to tell them what we're doing. And the reason.
Wally, was one of those criteria, is the player effective?
What do you mean? Well, the criteria, and I can send it to you. Yeah, it is. If they're effective, they may have offensive hockey sense. We evaluated that. We have a defensive hockey sense as separate categories. We evaluated physicality, which was strength on skates, puck protection, so many other facets, which were valid at the female level at the time. And it all adds up to, yeah, can they play the game and do they have the qualities? And the coaches had to rate them in the tryout games rank them in the game rankings. The scouts ranked them on their trait rankings. And we used an Excel program and collated the ranking and combined what the coaches said for gameplay ranking with our scout ranking, and that's the team we picked.
Well, I scouted a lot when I was head coach of college, but it was me that did the evaluation, the choosing and everything. And even when I was in the Red Bulls, they sent me to Germany a couple of times.
Yeah.
To watch different things, and they had their own little ranking system, but there were 12 people to discuss it with, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I did too. I scouted for a prep school team. I scouted USHL again to college, and did a lot of USA hockey stuff too, where that was very, very collaborative, like you're talking about, Wally. And when you go through the different criteria, and regardless of how I ever recruited, I never cared if you were 5'6" or 6'5". Were you effective? To me, that is the bottom line. Like, are you an effective player? If you're out there on a shift, do I find something positive that you're doing every shift? I probably want to find a way to get that player on my team, as opposed to the 6'5" player that maybe is big and really physical, but doesn't do much beyond that. Like, overall, are you effective? Are you effective in a way that can make the team better? To me, that's the bottom line. And if there's other things to fix, again, like in today's world, like you guys have been talking about, right? Skating coaches, et cetera, you can pretty much fix everything else. But I think the effective piece relates strongly to an individual's hockey IQ, because regardless of your size, if you find a way to be visible out there in a positive way, you probably understand the game pretty well.
You know, the one thing I learned from Mel Davidson scouting, she just told me, you don't want to be the last player to touch the puck on your team. And that is a very compelling observation, because they're the ones that don't move it to good ice, don't protect it, aren't able to hang on to it. You lose possession. And that's one quality that simplifies evaluation. And hockey sense, I think we've gone, Tom, through the era of skating first. Now it's really big on hockey sense. And I've always felt that of all the three, the skills are pretty equal today. The hockey sense is a separator, but it's pretty good, pretty equal. The difference at the NHL level is the intangibles. How they can play so hard, so competitively, so physically, game after game, it amazes me. So it takes a special breed to play at that highest level. And, you know, and I really like it. Like, we're fans of the game. we're not dedicated to the professional game. We're dedicated to the good of the game and what it does for kids. So hell, that 4'7" player going to Harvard, she's going to be a hell of a student athlete.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How far she's going to go, I don't give a damn.
Right.
It's what she's going to do when she comes out of that experience, to me, that really matters. So we've got to be careful of our kids not getting to that next level, being better than this kid, and who's scoring, who'd be drafting who's playing who's shortening your bench. Because the reality of remind ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing at
Right.
our level? It's different than at the pro level.
For sure.
And the pro level tends to make better use of their personnel than a lot of minor hockey league teams.
Yeah, unfortunately, Wally, I think a lot of minor hockey coaches, especially younger, I don't even say younger, I'll say less experienced coaches, tend to use the NHL as a bit of a template, which is a mistake.
But I think it's unavoidable because it's so popular. We watch how players play, and we're looking at the draft, and they're going to bigger, stronger, maybe faster than smarter. I don't know. It's
Well,
evolved.
think about Florida. If you want to watch a team, they use all four lines.
Yes, that's
They use all four lines, and Edmonton ends up doing the two lines, and they get exhausted.
Yeah.
And they get clobbered at the end.
Yeah. No, it's an art. Definitely an art. So, when you go full circle, I come back to Puerto Rico and your experience. Some of those kids are going to colleges right now. Sounds like all of them are pretty well, and they're getting good experiences out of it. And I can honestly say, and I think we can all speak to that. We were students first, athletes second.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a fun summer for these ladies.
Yeah. Are they?
Where do they practice?
Well, so practice is there's a tournament. Again, there's a tournament end of August. They come in early and they get a day of practice skating together.
Where are they doing this?
This is down in Florida. This is actually down in, I think it's the Panthers practice facility.
Okay.
Coral Springs. So they'll come in and they'll skate, and then it's 5 days, bunch of games, and back on the plane. See you soon. The other thing that they have developmental wise too, which is pretty interesting, IHF, they do 3-on-3 tournaments.
I've seen those. I've never seen one, but I've seen that they do that.
Yeah, so that's they're doing one. I think it's in Argentina in November. So they'll end up picking the best 9 players off of this team, I think, unless, again, there's always players filtering into this. So it's always kind of a organic and a work in progress in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes too. But yeah, that's the thing. There's not really practice. There's Zoom calls before and talks about strategy and things like that, and things to work on as a group, but not the ability to have a 2-week camp where let's go through all this stuff and now let's go down and play a tournament.